per month or per quarter or even per year, and what that actually helps you get to over time. So I get asked all the time, Scott, is medical 22 better than aged care 3 or something? I'm like, with all due respect, like no one building is hugely better than the next building. Does that make sense? But what I do think is really important is to have the consistency to keep doing it. So this is just a personal thing. You know how we started with the wine? That's my son there learning to read. And I decided that there's a good chance he probably won't go to a South African university. So I said to myself, okay, well, what would it cost to go to Aussie, American, English, Melbourne, Harvard, Oxford? And then I did the maths, which was over here. If I did $100 per month, $500 per month, $1,000 per month, what would I need to invest so that he had the freedom? Now, I want to be clear. I don't even know if my son wants to go to university. Hilda's going to talk about this. But I do want to have the freedom to be able to make that decision if I want it. And so for me, all that I'm saying is that one of the things I've learned is that when you want to commit to $100, $1,000, $10,000, $1 million, whatever it is, it's much more important if you've actually got a why and a plan, which I can see our professional at the back is shaking his head, because that's the thing most of us don't have. And then we wonder why 10 years from now we haven't done what we wanted to do. Okay? So I just really challenge you. And what's interesting is that I sometimes look at it, if you look at those buildings, on average it's about 8% cash on cash. If you want to work out what would it take for you to be sort of financially free or whatever, literally just work out what you need in US dollars, then work out what is the amount and divide it by 8% and you've got a rough amount. Like, it's a simple calculation. I understand there's a lot more variables and stuff. But do you see it starts to give you, and then the other thing is that if you go back to this, your amount might be $2 million over there, and you might think, how am I ever going to get $2 million? But that's not the way you need to think. If you did $1,000 per month for 15 years, you'd be at $2 million. Do you see the point? So $2 million sounds hell of a scary, but committing to $1,000 a month is not as scary and makes it much more achievable. So, the last point is fees. You guys actually spoke about it very eloquently. 1% on fees is 10 years of your retirement income. 1%. Okay? And the other thing is that 96% of fund managers don't beat the 15-year average, which is again the reason why I don't think I can give you advice, because I've got a 96% chance of not even being able to beat the average. And just in our interest, I showed you that those medical deals and the different types of deals have on average got about an 8%. Does anyone know what the American REITs, real estate investment trusts, in the medical sector are paying in America, roughly?
It's down 6 probably.
It's lower than that actually, it's lower than 5, it's sort of 4.75 to 5% at the moment. And I always say to people, what's the difference? Even if it's 6, Clark, let's make it 6. What's the difference between 6 and 8? 2%, yes, 100% correct. Well done. 20 years, yes, also. But really it's just the middlemen. Because all that we're doing is we're helping you invest directly in the deal versus all the middlemen in the process. That's it. We're not clever, we didn't go to better universities, we're not better negotiators. It's just putting you directly into the deal, basically, in terms of that process. The global citizenship, we're actually going to have a whole session after tea just on that, for those of you. And so I wanted to invite Garth and Hilda to come and join me, please, up on stage. Thank you very much, Alex. And we've had some wonderful sessions in different parts of the country. I'm very grateful that both of them, Hilda's actually flown all the way out from America to come and join us and spend the weekend with us this weekend. And Garth actually fell and was fly fishing and fell on a rock, and so he has a very sore coccyx, and we're actually very grateful that he's here. So, thank you. Awesome, thanks for coming. So what do we want to... Oh, I've got it.
If he was well.
We'll get it fixed, but it's more working on it. So, just to introduce quickly, as I said to you, and it was actually just before they arrived, What the feedback we've had before is that I've come along and people like myself and Lyndon have given lots of presentations, and people walk away going, hey, that's wonderful and it's very theoretical, but they don't like actually hear or see the practical implementation. Does that make sense? You know? So what we asked Hilda and Garth to come here and do was to almost do it in a Q&A environment. And what we mean by Q&A is where we can all engage and be part of a conversation and really get some understanding around, sorry mate, I don't know, when we put this on it goes all funny. There's on L6, which is what I was told to do.
Yeah.
Everyone wants a quick toilet. Is it working?
I noticed yesterday when they said you had a team straight to the toilet, so maybe before we start a big break there.
Does anyone want a quick toilet break? Yeah? Okay. Cool. We'll do a 5-minute toilet break.
Stop bar as well, but touch you anyway.
So you good at that?
You know that it's always that every day, 15 hours, that doesn't impact. I don't care. You know what's okay. Right.
Als je verstandig kan zijn,
just walk away. But you can't help this. You won't help it. Stefan calls for myself yesterday night. There's a rule that will affect my entire weekend. And then there's 15 things I said to do. So it's just very busy.
Closing a deal, what someone's out, you want to answer, then you go to KYC. So no worries.
It's just it's chaos this time of the year. Usually rains, you keep everybody else, so not everybody on the planet wants to trade. That's the usual reaction. So everybody thinks because the market's not up now, they want to start doing really interesting. It's just the usual cycle, it's chaos.
So bear in mind, these medicals will probably close in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So it's not a feasibility.
Digital investors that are, it's not, you don't have to do a big deal now, but I have got, as I said to Al this morning, I don't think equities have got much to offer over the next 2 years, so giving income has. Giving income has payment rate. If you look at us, we can help facilitate through the process. Money's really offshore. It's offshore, it's really needs to be a business to go to.
Where's the land? Where's the land?
Just send it to me. What deal would go to
It's got the least distance to travel.
send it directly to me. I'll deal with closing it now. And I can actually hand it on to me. She says that's good.
So those are got one thing that cheats on the base.
Oh, I did that. Did that. It's not infectious. Actually, I don't know exactly wrong.
Sorry guys, can we get going? Okay, you're all feeling a little bit more relaxed now. You don't have to worry about the toilet breaks and excellent. So just to repeat what I was saying, so the whole idea now is to have an interactive session and to really get some insights, from someone like Hilda that has built a business, invested, actually immigrated, and is living and truly epitomizes for me what a global citizen is all about. And from Garth's perspective, he's been helping people, wealthy families, invest and move their money overseas and live locally and everything else. So again, getting the insights as to what's happening in the global economies, etc. My challenge to you is I've got some questions I'd like to ask that I think will be of value to you, but I'd really ask for this to be an engaging session versus just a one-way conversation. Is that fair? Yeah? So I think if you wouldn't mind, just for the two of you, maybe Hilda, you can start. Just a little bit about your background and where you come from and how did you end up in America, for those who haven't met you.
Hi everyone. Is this not enough?
Thanks, I can hear.
So I'm not going to tell you my whole life long story, but in 2000, I'm from Cape Town, but moved to Johannesburg, and in 2000 started a healthcare company. Pharmaceuticals, I saw the trend away from pharmaceuticals, and you probably know the products, ViroGuard, Arthroguard, Proviflora, those were the products, and then 10 years later we had an offer from a pharmaceutical company that wanted to acquire us, and we exited the business. And then since then I went into that what's next phase of my life, and at the same, that was about 2013, I went to America for the first time, and it was like I went home. I came back and I saw the writing on the wall then on what's going to go wrong in the country. I'm really big on trend spotting. And I knew I had to have a plan B. And just to ask a question, who here has an alternative passport? Okay. So in those days, the only people I found that was happy living in South Africa were the people that knew they had a plan B, or they had somewhere to go should the whole place collapse. And then I started talking to God, and I said, I need to have a plan B. I need to start thinking proactively. We need to start putting some plans in place. And I invested in the EB5 program in the States, but not really the intention to move, but to have it as a backup. But in 2017, we got granted our permission to enter the US and get a green card. And at that point, it was in sort of the middle of all the political and financial crises in South Africa. So I had to make a really difficult decision on what I want to do. And like I guess any parent, we make our decisions for our kids, and I knew they would probably have to go and find work, or do they show up in their world outside of South Africa. And then I made a decision to be part of this big ship and create a new life for them. So we moved to Texas in July last year, and it is now looking back, it was like one of the hardest things I've done. But just looking at the difference in us and how we think and how it gave my children a different perspective of the world. And I just also realized our conversations we had is so limiting our thinking, because it's always like the negative and always about the things that can go wrong and about our safety and our security, where those conversations is not even, it's not conversations to be had. And to put it in perspective, my son was a good swimmer in the school he was in. He's now swimming there with coaching in a club for a year, and he set his sights on the Olympics when he will be 17 in 5 years' time. So they would never have had given themselves permission to think that big, I think, if we stayed here and stayed in our space of fear. So I think what I've learned is, and as I've since met so many South Africans that's moved, and meet people that moved 15 and 20 years ago, sometimes I ask myself, why did I move 20 years ago? Because they're flourishing and really successful, and we have so much to offer the world. And we should stop thinking so small and start seeing how can we show up in the big world and show our talents. because the world still needs, still be what we as South Africans go through. It makes us resourceful, makes us creative. And sometimes in countries where there's so much resources, it stifles creativity. So I think South Africans have a big role to play in world economies. If we start showing up there, we should give ourselves permission to be able to do that. That's just my story. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you, Hilda. So Garth, from your perspective, you know, I've always loved the way you described what a family office is. And you know, most people, I don't know if you don't know what a family office is, but when you look into it, the wealthiest families all have family offices. And again, if you want to be successful, copy successful people. So would you mind just explaining a little bit of your background? What is a family office? Because the majority of us haven't heard of it before, and you sum it up in a very simple way.
So it's sort of summed it up a different way every day for the last week. But I still feel the analogy of an architect of finances is a very good way to describe a family office. A family office essentially has a person who drafts the plan of an individual's life by focusing on the individual and then designing a financial home or a building around them. The personal financial director, which would be Calio Capital, for example, then goes about finding the necessary people that are required to execute on that person's personal plan. So they will find the structures offshore, they will find the investment houses, they'll find a Chinese equity manager if that's what's required, and put together a comprehensive plan with people that can execute that plan. Just a little bit about me. I started my first business fresh out of the South African Defence Force, sold that business at 24, and was now faced with this conundrum of how do you invest money. So the entrepreneurial side was there, and I made this money, and I didn't know what to do with it. While I was building up this business, I was investing with the company that was actually my auditor and my investment house. And I was intrigued by this world of money and how money reacted. And I learned at a very young age there's a big difference between the entrepreneurial and the investor. And I'd always been impressed with the guys that have been looking after my books and running that. So I bought actually into that investment company, and I was there for 10 years. And then right at that point, I started getting very concerned about how wealth management worked and how it was very much one-sided in favor of the financial institution. And that was where the family office and the multi-family office concept was born. So after 10 years, I exited that business, and with Alan Greenstein, the CEO at the time of Sasfin, we built this concept of people being involved in property equity, private equity, wealth management, and we merged the property equity and private equity with the wealth management and stockbroking at Sasfin to have one common goal, so that it was brought in. At the time, being a financial institution, they started looking towards their own asset management, and that was when I broke away, because I didn't like the bias towards one institution. So I believe the ability to assess investments, life decisions for a family, and where they're going to go forward is very critical. And it has to be unbiased, and it has to be in the best interests and client-centric, which is where the whole world is moving around this. And the relationship with Hilda has been the right word would be a beautiful one, because it's been a very strong practical execution of that vision and that movement. Along the way, we now manage 85 super high net worth families. It's not the only thing we do, right down to what everything we do is always based on the client-centric model. So yeah, that's what a family office is and who I am.
I just want to add to that is the lesson I've learned over the last 8 years was a lot of people, me included, you make your money in one way and then you live the life the money affords you to live. Whereas over the last 8 years, we turned it around to say, what is the life I want to live? And then your money must make your money or create or invest your money to be able to afford you that. So it doesn't sound like it's a big difference, but it's huge. Once you actually think what life you want, and your money then works to create, it's going to be working for your money, and then after some point the money affords you the life.
Well, one of the things that fascinated me when we first met, so we met in about 2013, so we were sort of going through this change that you've been speaking about, and one of the things that amazed me is that you, more than anyone I've met, has really sort of got on an airplane, gone over and learned from the best around the world. You said that you love trend spotting and trying to understand the future and everything else. And one of the things you shared with me when I saw you earlier this year in America was that you love the fact that now when you're in Austin, it's a 2-hour flight to, to these different conferences versus a 16 or 20-hour flight. Share with them, if you wouldn't mind, just sharing with us around where you see the world going, what is happening, what's happening in America, and some of the things that you've learned, even just in the last year and a bit that you've been there, in terms of the big picture.
So I think we're a couple of weeks off the next decade, and we're going to really see the next 10 years is going to be a fundamental year, a massive rate of change, to the point where we as humans need to redefine what humanity is. This technology is going to change so fast. So I'm part of the Bible 360 and Singularity Group. I don't know if you guys know about them. Once a year we get together in LA. It's about 300 of us around the world, and we then get presented by people to where the world's going. So the people that's creating this future that we need to negotiate where the world's going. And I just want to backtrack. So the last, probably since 2014, I realized since I've exited the business that I needed to understand the future to be a better mother. And that understanding to be a better mother put me in a journey where I needed to understand where the future's going, how do I guide my children in this uncertain future. And I then understood I need to understand technology, because their world is just going to be, it's going to be technology driven and technology based. And that put me then on the path where, okay, what's the trends? Who do I need to access? Where do I need to be to understand this world? And that got me to the Peter Amanda's group and where the world's going. So there's a lot of talk, and I just can see from 4 years ago when things that were predicted for 2025 is now happening in 2020 and 2019, like Uber's driverless cars. They were thinking latter second half of the next decade, and they're already test driving it in 2018, 2019. So the speed of the speed of change is changing. And unless you are prepared, you're going to find yourself again in a place where you can potentially be a victim and behave reactively. Technology will depend where we're going to invest, how we're going to invest. I have a lot of discussions on Scott where I think real estate investments going, how the next 5 years look like, how we will invest in buildings, what we will look like, what we were looking for in the buildings, what tenants were looking for in their buildings. And that will, so all our investments and what we do will be driven by technology. So I believe where the world's going is huge, although there's a deception phase now that there's a lot happening, but it doesn't look like there's a lot happening. And when it starts breaking through to the disruptive phase, which I believe is already happening and will start 2020, will be the big upturn to disruption. So if you have a business and you are not thinking how technology will impact my business, you're really out of business. Your competitors are going to be different than your obvious competitors, and who potentially will acquire your business. You've got to start really thinking you'll be potentially not the current person that you think, or company that you think will be acquiring it. So if your business is not a technology data-driven business, you need to start looking at how can I convert my business, what I need to do. Or you just have to get up now and get some money for it, because there's huge changes coming. And in South Africa, I see the opportunity where there's a lot of technologies, and when I'm talking in America, I'm speaking a lot about the thinkings there, but the impact will be out of America, and they don't really see that yet. But I think because there's a lot of infrastructure in America, and also the thinking, but when there's infrastructure, there's not always the need to change. Where there's in a country where there's little infrastructure, or lack of infrastructure, I think when you team up with the thinkers there, you can leapfrog. So there's still going to be opportunities. The thinking's just going to be different. You're going to think But I have to think who's the thinkers, what I need to team up. Where can I disrupt my business before someone else comes in and disrupts it, and then see how can we leapfrog that disruption and create revolutionize your own business.
It's interesting what Hilda says about thinking, and last night at dinner, she just asked one of our partners quite a simple question, and you could see his light bulb moment where just a different question around that whole technology and how the whole business could be different, it could be valued differently and everything else. So it's amazing remember I spoke earlier about one question could change a directory. Garth, from your perspective, when we look at the global economy, before you guys arrived, we've been talking about the uncertainty of where the world's going and you know, whether it's in the first world markets or the emerging markets, etc. What are some of the risks or the thought process that you're offering for your clients in terms of navigating the next couple of years and, you know, as to what one does with investing involved, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm just going to avoid sort of going off on a tangent and try and stay within what Hilda was saying there and how terrifying the future can be or how exciting it can be. It's a choice that you make. So, you know, when we look at the risks going into the next decade and we look at the opportunities in the next decade, I think it's critical to understand that the biggest influencer of markets from an investing point of view is the social media and the access to instant information, which is, of course, not every investor and guru. You know, they now have all the information and none of the behavior. So what we have now is a lot more information coming through a lot quicker, and certainly the change, when we talk about the rate of change, is the speed that markets move up and down. You know, what we see happening in a period of 2 to 3 weeks now used to unfold in 2 to 3 quarters in history. So that is largely driven by the access to information and the speed with which bad behavior around investing in money occurs. So, you know, Trump tweets something, market comes off 6%, and, you know, those are the risks that we have. And we need to understand how to deal with information, because it's going to be coming so quickly. And if you don't know how to deal with that information, both in your business and how to adjust to that information, you've got a major threat. But looking at emerging markets and developed markets, you know, the world is much more engaged. You know, when Ronald Reagan said something, it took 3 weeks to arrive in South Africa via the news. And it's that pace of information. So it's the uprisings you see in Hong Kong, the Arab Springs that we've had, that the people have a much stronger voice in the outcome. You know, the people are the judge and jury of businesses today. And whether you did something or you didn't do something, if the media judges you, you're out of business if you did something wrong. So these are the threats that we see to business. So what we've got to understand about how the world is moving is how to process information and how to react to that information in a responsible way. We're seeing a lot more in the younger generation having more of a socialistic type responsibility. And we see climate change, food production, you know, water shortages being real threats to the global economies and real opportunities to the global economy. So all of these things, socialism, super high taxes, wealth inequalities, are real threats across both developed and, you know, emerging markets. The US, you know, has quite a big division at the moment in terms of that ability for people to create narratives, and South Africans are probably first and foremost actually in that narrative at the moment as well. You know, we get so much negative information and we're clouded from making decisions. And I think that's critically important, is to be able to look at technology, to be able to look at investment opportunities, and this is just the grounding of actual opportunities we'll talk about later, but to look at them on their merits. Most of the super tech companies solve very simple problems. They don't solve complex problems. Wealth migrates just to use their platform